Welcome to Dr. Introspect TV, and it's your host, Dr. Introspect, and I'm live. That's my intro. I typically say I'm back, but I'm live today, and this is my first live YouTube video. I think I've just done live just one other time on another platform, and so I have had a lot of excitement about this, and that's really a pleasant way of saying I've been very anxious about this video. But I've been excited about the topic. I've been wanting to come here and do this analysis slash reflection on what we're talking about today. So that I've been excited about, and um, I hope you guys can give me some grace because this is my first time and I'm learning as I go, and this is part of my spontaneous journey. I'm hoping to push out more content in a more spontaneous fashion to kind of get more comfortable with doing things like this and going live and hopefully interacting with you guys in real time. I think it would add so much depth and richness to our conversations, as opposed to making it and then posting it and then waiting for the comments. But we'll see. So, whew, yeah, this is our first live video. Super excited. So today we are going to be talking about poor things. And if you see me looking down, I'm just looking at my notes that I have on my trusty notebook and my device. Today, I keep taking in breaths because I'm so, I should just chill. Let me just chill. Let me just lean back and chill. Let me chill. Okay, so if this is your first time on Dr. Introspect TV, on this channel we do a lot of analysis, mostly psychological, phenomenological, using lenses like psychology, sociology, even economics, depending on what we're looking at, to really look at our society through media such as movies, storytelling, music, books, and such, and see the themes that we can pick up from there, expand upon them, extrapolate the lessons we can get, and apply them to our lives so that we can evolve to be better. And so that's what we're doing. And I'm thinking this month I want to do like a series for women, seeing as this month is really about like women. We had International Women's Day in the month of March. So to me, in my mind, March is like the Women's History Month. So I'm thinking about just making a lot of female themed content, either things about the storytelling that is very, inclined towards womanhood, or maybe the projects created by women that have been impactful, or just something along those lines, or something that's historically significant. And that's also part of the reasons why I'm doing this video today. And today we are going to be looking at poor things. And while a lot of this analysis is going to be focused on poor things, I'm going to also make some brief comparisons to the Barbie movie. And I think the reason I'm going to be making that comparison, you find out as we go along, is because I just can't help but make it, okay? So I've been wanting to do this analysis since I saw this movie like 2 weeks ago, but I had a feeling that it would win an Oscar, and I just thought it would be just even more significant if I can come on here after the Oscar award has been announced, and this woman has gotten her much needed accolade. Emma Stone, she was incredible in this movie. Her rendition of this story was just so captivating, I have to tell you. So, let's dive into it. So, in Poor Things, the genre is classified as comedy sci-fi. It's 2 hours 21 minutes. I honestly did not feel the 2 hours go by. Um, that's how good I enjoyed this movie. Uh, there's some interesting people here. We have Willem Dafoe. When I saw him, I thought, okay, this is going to be interesting. A lot of things I've seen him in, I've quite liked. So I thought, okay, this is going to be good. Um, and just a short background of the story. Emma Stone's character is Bella Baxter, and she is reanimated. What that means is that she's brought back to life by this scientist, Dr. Godwin, who she often refers to as God. Uh, and I think she was pregnant and she jumped over a bridge and she died, her previous self. Uh, and he brought her back to life with his Dr. Frankenstein type of like science he does, an experimentation, and he put the brain of the fetus inside her brain, and that's how he brought her back to life. And in the story, we essentially go through Bella's becoming, right? We see her become a person, become a woman. We kind of go through her womanhood journey and some of the experiences and lessons she picks up on the way. And that's the long and short of the story, but we will get deeper in that. Okay? So, Bella. Ah, Bella, as she is going through this journey, like in the beginning, we see her, the the setting is kind of in this black and white theme, right? And on this channel, I don't usually do commentary on things like the cinematography and the graphics, the effects. I always tend to focus on the storytelling, the theme, the plot, and just do my thematic analysis around that. And so, but here, when you see that beginning and it's black and white, and I'm not someone that enjoys watching a lot of black and white films, it has to be really good for me to want to watch it. So in the initially seeing that, I was kind of uh, almost like, what is this? I think when I saw the professor's face and I saw the scars on his face, that's when I was like, okay, this is an interesting face. And he's in the lab doing interesting things. So I think the story is going to be interesting. But what I think we were being shown is how Bella perceives her reality, how Bella perceives her world. It's black and white, it's boring, it's not exciting, it's uneventful, and this is her perception at this time. A lot of the movie, we see it through Bella's lens, and that's why I say we're taking a journey with her through time and through her life and through her experiences. And so, in that black and white face of the film, Bella is still how she is still speaking with monosyllabic words. Her sentences are not quite structured. Um, so the brain is still learning, is still learning the words. She's still learning how to express herself. And in a way, it's similar to a baby, right? When a baby starts speaking, the words are few. It's like dada, mama, there's certain things the baby says. that make a bit of sense, but it's not quite, you wouldn't say they are quite able to communicate yet. And I want to kind of juxtapose this with the Barbie movie. So in the Barbie movie, Barbie is also having her awakening moment, right? So she's been going through life in this Barbie universe, and suddenly she is starting to, you know, experience things like pain, experience things like confronting, you know, death, confronting the meaning of existence. So that's her own becoming journey as well. And seeing Bella Baxter in Poor Things having her own becoming, and her becoming is constant throughout the entire film. So in the first phase, it's that black and white, it's words, it's learning things, it's wanting to go outside, and she forces Godwin to take her outside so that she can see more, because she's feeling trapped in this lab, in this house. And even though she can do anything and eat anything she wants and have anything she wants, it feels like there is more to see, there is more to experience. And like, this cannot just be life, right? We also see how Bella Baxter discovers sexual pleasure, and we also see how she is shamed for it, which is interesting because in reality, in real life, so as I am talking about this, I'm going to switch between the story and our reality in real life. And in real life, it is also shamed upon, you know, experiencing sexual pleasure, self gratification, and I'm not equating this with like um, addiction. Okay, I'm not saying when you have a problem and you do it 30 times a day, that's not what I'm referring to, but just the idea that she was able to discover this and discover herself as well, and she wants to participate in this, and it's like, no, you don't do that. I thought that was interesting. um and so again, she's having that awakening, just like Bobby's having the awakening as well. And eventually, Bella wants to see the world. Bella is frustrated. She wants to go and see the world. A theme I thought that was very interesting in this movie is the whole concept of control. Okay, and as I do this analysis, it's not going to be anything based on like morality or religion or any of those kind of dimensions. So if you are bringing that into this, you're going to miss out on what the story is actually trying to tell us. And so with Bella, she wants to go out into the world. She wants to see more. And in this story, there's this whole theme about control. And the control is coming from the men. This is Bella's reality, that a lot of the men in her life are always trying to control her. And the first experience is with Godwin, who is like her father figure in this story. And Godwin, his own kind of control is under the lens of, I would say, protection. You know, these experiments he's conducting, we don't know if they're legal. We don't know if people found out he brought someone from dead back to life, if it would be frowned upon. And I think, judging from his own experience as well, when he was young, his father conducted experiments on him and they left him disfigured. And because of his appearance, he was subjugated to a lot of unfair treatment in public spaces. So he had to seclude himself and kind of shield himself from all of that. And I think he wanted to protect Bella from that, and probably also protect her from being harmed, being taken advantage of by other men. Okay. But regardless of his intentions, it's still under the umbrella of control. And there was that controlling feeling of a man that is her father this time on Bella. And I think this is true for many women in many societies. They don't feel like they own themselves, they don't feel like, and this is not about, someone being young. You can be an adult, a full fledged woman, and still not be allowed to come into your own feeling, always feeling like you are being controlled by maybe the father figures in your life. Could be your older brothers, it could be your uncles. And so that kind of experience, I think a lot of women can connect to in real life. But again, Godwin is not the villain in this story, and even though what he's trying to do for Hawa is coming from a good place, he hires this assistant that he notices is developing a fondness and affection for Bella, and he writes up this whole contract for him to marry her and be with her forever, but live under his roof. And again, the control is it's not just extending to Bella, it's also the other man that's going to be in her life. And it just feels like, I don't know, it didn't feel healthy, even though it was coming from a good place. When you are so scared of losing something, and you just grab onto it so tight, you are going to be more likely to lose them. You're going to drive them away. And I think it was getting to that point between him and Bella, and he realized he has to let her go, like a father does. When a child says, I want to go and see the world, he has to let her go. When the prodigal son in the Bible said, I want to go and do what I want to do, his father had to let him go. And it comes to that point, and I had a lot of respect for him in that moment, because he didn't just let her go, he gave her some money and he hid it. I like how he hid it, because it's like he is aware of the dangers of the world outside. How, Bella is also naive, right? She has her wits about her, but she's still naive. She is still wide-eyed. She's looking at the world with wide eyes. And I thought that's interesting when I thought about that expression. And I look at Emma Watson's face, I'm like, okay, it makes sense. She's playing this character because she has those big bright eyes that are just looking at the world with wonder. Another person that has that look is the person in the Barbie movie as well. What's her name? I know her name, but it's not coming to mind right now. Margot Robbie. Margot Robbie also had the big bright eyes, the big wide eye look, especially when she came into the human world, and she's looking at everything with so much wonder, and so much, oh wow, oh wow, oh wow, that naivete. It's kind of enduring. It can also be alluring. A lot of people see that and they think, ooh, okay, this is someone that we can probably exploit. This is someone he can probably take advantage of. And so I cannot understand the concern. But he did set her free, he let her go. And Bella goes on this journey with this guy. And this is where you're going to see the other element of control come in. The guy's character is Duncan, played by Mark Ruffalo. And I think Mark did such a good job with this character. And Mark is your typical rake. He is the charming, suave guy that gets a lot of ladies, but doesn't want to be tied down. So he goes across, doing his thing, having his fun. He sees women as things to be conquered, things to be acquired and conquered. And when he's had his fill, he tosses them off. So when he is the lawyer that actually helped God draft up the contract, and when he saw the contract, he's like, he has to meet the woman that is the reason for this contract. There has to be something about her that is so, that would make someone create this kind of contract to keep them. And so again, for him it was about his ego. He comes and he steals her away. He tells her, I can give you adventure, I can show you things, I can. And Bella wants to see the world and see things, and it helps to have someone that has seen the world and can show you all the things. So it seemed to make a lot of sense. And of course, she's yet to realize the nature of human beings. How people can be selfish, self centered, cruel, all of these other things that she's yet to experience in life, because again, Bella is still naive. Bella is still, I don't want to say baby, but she is still new to the world. And so there's so much to discover. And she goes with this guy, and the guy tells her, look, I'm not someone that can offer you security. I'm not someone that can offer you stability. Basically telling her, I'm not the kind of man you want to have a family with. And I should say, before Bella leaves, she accepts the engagement to that guy. I think his name was Max, and he's played by Rami Youssef. I really like Rami. He was on a Hulu show called Rami, and it was a really cool show, so it was nice to see him again. And Rami did try to stop her from leaving, but she used the chloroform stuff, and he passed out, and she left on him. And so she knows that she's engaged. She knows that when she comes back, she's going to get married to Rami. But she wants to see the world first before all of that. I don't even think she understands at this time what marriage is, what being committed together forever is, what that means. She doesn't understand. Another thing I want to talk about is the carnal nature, and I don't say this in like a sinful way, but more so like how when you are in that state of, all your frontal lobes, everything hasn't fully formed, your reaction is going to be very body based. It's going to be very instinctual. So you're hungry, you want food, and if you desire something, you go and you take it. You desire something, you go and you want it. And you notice that a lot with Bella and her father. Every time she wants something and he says no, she throws a tantrum like a child does. She screams, she breaks things, she yells, she fights. And that really tells you as well about where her brain is in its development. It's almost very childlike, but again, she is in an adult body, and she is also experiencing adult sensations, and that's how it's almost like she's acting out, right? She hasn't developed those things. She hasn't both like mentally and both mentally and like physically as well, I would say. And so I also think that's why when she says, oh, she wants to pleasure herself, she doesn't think, oh, let me wait till it's a good time for me to go to my private area in my room. She just does it there and then, because again, it's instinctual. I have this urge, I have this sensation, I want to act on it, you know? And yeah, I just thought I should mention that. But back to the storytelling, and now we're going to talk about the second aspect of control. And this second aspect of control, again, like I mentioned earlier, was with Duncan, the character played by Mark Ruffalo. And I don't know if I'm saying his name right, maybe Ruffalo, let me know. But he wanted to possess her. And when he stole her away, when he took her from Godwin, and they set on this adventure, traveling across different regions, different states. They went to places like Spain and all these other places. He was having a good time. He was thinking, I'm running the show. And when he told her, I don't expect anything from me. He expected this to be like every other conquest where, he has his fun with the lady and he doesn't form any attachment and he just goes on his way. And he even told her, like, all the ladies, they always want me and I don't want them, so please don't, like, get attached to me. Which is interesting because in the story, the opposite is what happens. He actually develops an attachment to her. But I don't want anyone to be misled to think that whatever this attachment was love or intimacy or anything like that, because it's still all about him. He is not looking to really attach to anyone. He is not really looking to fall in love with anyone. He enjoys that game he plays with different women where they are all trying to pursue him, or he pursues them, he gets them, and then when they are attached to him, he lets them go. He has an avoidant attachment style. More on that. I have a video on attachment styles like 2 years ago. You can find that in the videos I have before, but he has an avoidant attachment style, and so he's going to seek people out, get them to connect to him, and when they connect to him, he doesn't want them anymore, and he goes and finds a new person to repeat the cycle all over again with. Someone might even argue that he probably has some narcissistic traits um, in him as well, and I would not. I can see how someone would say that because his character and some of the things he depicted in this story were just wow. But yes, and he makes it seem like, oh, he has fallen in love with her, like what's happening to him, this is not what happens to him, it's usually what happens to the other woman, like. And it's funny, Bella didn't really do anything to him. Bella said she wants to see the world and she wants to experience things, and that's what she was going to do. And again, Bella is naive. Bella says what she's thinking. She doesn't have a filter. And I kind of found that refreshing in a way, even when she's saying things that you're thinking, okay, you shouldn't say this. But I think it's also maybe because of how we are in society, how we have to have all of these like filters and censor ourselves so much. But even more so as women, like the things that you're allowed to say, things you're not allowed to say. And I'm not quite sure what the timing and setting of the story is because it kind of looks like it's set like back in the day. But at the same time, I can't really say what the time period is in this story. And I know for a lot of past times, women were not allowed to speak in public, they were not allowed to have opinions, they were not allowed to have a lot of, things like that. And so Bella just saying her mind, saying what she wants to say, I thought that was interesting. But yes, we have this man that was very controlling. He tried to, when Bella informs him that she had very upset. He was just very angry, and I'm like, why is he angry? This is what he does, you know? I wonder if I don't know. Like, why is he so? Every time that Bella would, you know, indicate anything that involved her asserting herself in any way, he would get angry. They were not in a relationship. They were not exclusive. They were traveling together, you know. Quite likely, if he had informed her that he was dry humping or humping, the word humping, you know what I'm referring to, right? I don't know if I can say the word in social media, but fast jumping, I think. I think that's what she's called it, on someone else. I don't think she would have been mad. She would have just thought, okay, you enjoyed yourself. Like I'm enjoying myself, and like good for you. But here he is thinking that he somehow owns Bella's body. This is a man that has stolen away a woman that is to be married to someone else. And that's how you know that this really has nothing to do with love, it has nothing to do with Bella, it's more so about his ego. And if you step away from that and you come to our present society, it is a reflection of our present society, regardless of whatever the time period was that they are making the story around. Because a lot of men of today, they wouldn't forgive a woman for cheating, but they would expect to be forgiven. They would, here's a man that sleeps around with everything, doesn't commit to anyone, and Bella did not even fast jump anyone. She just had fellatio, and still, it was, it made him so angry. It made him so angry that he took her. I would say he kidnapped her actually. He kidnapped her on a ship because he felt, and it's not just even about the fellatio. Anytime he would find out that she went out on her own to explore by herself, to try out new food, try out new cuisine, try out new drinks, see other sides of the city, and she wasn't with him, he would get mad. And no, it was not about protection because he's not a good person either. He is the man that her father is actually trying to protect her from. But even Godwin understands that she has to go and learn these lessons herself. She has to go and have these experiences herself, and he cannot chain her down for that long. And this man here, that is not the man she's engaged to, he's not her father, like there is no ownership to her, and there is no connection, there is nothing. He kidnaps her away and puts her on a boat because finally on this boat, at least she's not going to be able to get up and leave. And that's the interesting thing about avoidance, right? They push you away. They create all of these, distance in relationships. But they also have this fear of abandonment. The thought of her leaving, and she never left, the thought of her not being with him is scary enough for him to trap her on a boat at sea. Because what's she going to do? Jump into the water? And at this point, Bella decides that, okay, she can't leave the sea and explore. And again, this is defeating the purpose of her whole thing. Her whole thing was, I want to explore, and you are traveling, and I'm going to go with you. And here she is trapped on a boat, not seeing the sights, not experiencing the things, not connecting with people like she wants to. I like Bella's resilience. I like her nature of, okay, you've brought me here and you've confined me, and we're going to be on this ship for how many number of days, but I'm not going to let it stop me from still exploring. And so she decides to connect with other people, and Bella makes friends. with a black man and an older lady, and I thought that that connection was interesting because it was this connection that takes Bella through another level of evolution, right? So in the story, we are going through different stages of evolution of Bella. And in the first stage, we see her have her sexual awakening. And then in this other stage, Bella is about to have an intellectual awakening. The conversation she has with this woman reveals to her that, you know, the things between your thighs, it's fun, but it's the thing up here. This this is really where it's at. You can pleasure yourself as many times as you want, you can fast jump as many times as you want, you can have as many orgasms as you want, but here, this is what you need to really enrich. And Bella gets into reading books, and Bella gets into philosophy, and Bella gets into sociology. Bella gets into different dimensions of knowledge, and she's having all these conversations with these interesting people, and she's also exploring these ideas as well, and it's shaping like her view and her ideology on the world. When Bella becomes this woman, this man is not happy. I find that interesting because a lot of people that have a lot of attacks against feminism, they will often say when a woman becomes too educated, when a woman becomes too intelligent, when a woman, makes too much money, there are all of these tropes that they use to make it seem like it's such a bad thing for women to be informed. Information is so horrible, to the point that this man actually throws two of the books that she's reading into the sea, and they just keep giving her another one to read. He throws it away, he gives another one. He gets so angry that he's like, this old woman she has made friends with is the problem. He's going to throw her off the boat. And when he throws her off the boat, maybe, all this nonsense with Bella will stop. He wants her to still be that person that was just there, whenever he wanted to fun jump, they would fun jump, and she was just there. Even at that level of her just being in that carnal state, if she wanted to do any exploring of her own, seeing the world, going around, taking a stroll, and he wasn't in control of that, determining where they could go, when she could go, he was not happy with that. And now, because Bella is developing other aspects of her personality, she's not just a fun jumping girl. Fun jumping, you know what I mean when I say that. She is someone that reads, she is someone that writes, she's someone that interacts with other people. So she's having and carving out an image of herself, an identity for herself, and her time is not monopolized by him now, because she's not just in a room waiting for him to come back and they can fun jump. She's going out and she's connecting with people. She's not at his beck and call. He's mad. That is what it's about. Okay, it's not because he's fallen in love with her. If that's what you got from this, you missed the point. It's because Bella is carving out an identity that he thinks is going to be a problem for him. He can't control her as much. She's having her own thoughts, she's having her own ideas, and he can't monopolize her time anymore. And Bella is still upholding her contract because she doesn't say no jumping anymore, but she still wants to do the thing she's doing, which is exploring, which was the whole point of her leaving her house, of her saying, I want to go out. And he said, I will show you, but he doesn't just want to show her, he wants to control her. So, yeah. Another way you see the controlling happening is when they finally get off the boat and they make it to this other city in Paris, and when he finds out that Bella had been sleeping with men to make money, because they were homeless and poor and starving, and she went and I'm gonna get into that later, but there was another aspect of control there, feeling like he owned her body, and her body was for him to use as he wished. But she can't use her body as she wished, even if what she was using it to do was to get money for them to survive. And he shames her for it. And I thought it was utterly ridiculous. And this is not a morality argument that prostitution, the word I'm saying, you know what it means. I don't know if I can say it on YouTube, but the word that sounds like that. Or, you know, X work, the word that sounds like that, is good or bad. No, that's not what it's about, because he has probably given his body to more women than Bella would ever give in a lifetime. And he said this himself, that the reason why he is good at fun jumping is because, you know, he's had a lot of experiences. He has, you know, given a lot of pleasure to so many women, and like not many men are like him, and that's also that's why many women want him. He brags about this. He brags about his escapades, his, you know, doing all of this with all kinds of women. And here is Bella not doing all of this with all kinds of men, doing it to survive, but he's shaming her. And I thought that this was ridiculous, because it wasn't just ridiculous, it was a reflection of what happens in present day. You have men, not all men, but the men that particularly do this, shame women for doing X work for survival when they do that as well. Yeah, they're not paying, they're the one paying the women, but they are sleeping around with even more people than some of these ex workers are doing within a day. And some of these ex workers, thanks to things like OnlyFans, you know the word I'm saying, they don't even have to sleep with anyone to make the money. And so there's that element of jealousy that women can monetize their sexuality in a way that men cannot. Um, so there is the jealousy, there is the envy about that. I think a lot of it is the envy, but there's also the shaming. And that's the aspect I don't understand, because they are also introducing multiple bedfellows into their bodies. They're not getting paid most of the time. Men are the one doing the paying. But money aside in the equation, you're still offering yourself to so many people. So how can you turn around and shame someone for doing what you're doing exactly? It just feels like, I don't know, the hypocrisy. How do you not experience dissonance? The cognitive dissonance is ridiculous. But yeah, and he uses the shame as a control tactic. Like, look at you, you are a war, you know, the word I'm trying to say, but I can't say because it's YouTube. But he calls her all of these names, and I thought it was ridiculous. Um, so I'm going to tell you how they became poor and homeless. While they were on the ship, as Bella is doing all of these readings and, you know, exploring different writings, you know, I'm guessing she goes across works of like Descartes, Socrates, Plato, all of these things, and she's having this shaping idea of humanity. She's like, oh my god, there's so many problems in the world. You know, why don't we do something about it? And I thought that was very interesting, because that's like another stage of evolution while she's in this intellectual phase of her life, where when people find out that, oh, you know, I don't know what age you find that out. You know, you're young, you're in your father's roof, you're a teen or something, and you start like maybe hearing the news, and you're hearing about like crimes and war, and like, and you're wondering like, why is the world so ugly, and why aren't we doing something about it? And we should do something about it. We can do something about it. That's usually like the first thing, is optimism. And I thought it was interesting how her optimism is juxtaposed with this that black guy she meets on the boat, his cynicism. And I feel for a lot of us in the world, a lot of people operate in either extreme. There's so much gloom, there's so much disarray, there's so much wrong in the world, and you just come to the conclusion like, this is the world we live in, this is what it is, and this is how it is, and there's nothing I can do that would make any change. Seeing that level of cynicism in him versus her level of optimism, and throughout this movie, we continue to see that optimism, and it never dies. It never goes away for Bella. And Bella also develops empathy. In this boat, we also see her develop empathy because they go across. So she's reading, she's learning about how horrible the world is. Why aren't people doing things? Okay, we have poor people. Why aren't we giving them money? You know, all of these philosophical thoughts. And I think they come across some people that were really suffering, and the babies were starving, and it was just a very ugly situation. Disease was just very ugly, and she wants to run down there and help them. And this guy tells her, this is life. You know, if you went down there to help them, they would rob you. They will rob you and they will beat you and they will take everything that you have because they're trying to survive. And if we were there and they were us, we would do the same thing because we are trying to survive. This is just how the world works. And she's hearing this and she doesn't listen to him. She wants to run down and help them, and he is holding her back to the point that she has to bite him. And he takes the pain just to restrain her and prevent her from going to do something that, you know, he believes would be futile. But seeing Bella cry like that and feel that level of pain, I feel like it awoken this sense of like empathy in her. Like, now she knows empathy, because all of this time it's been very selfish, it's very me, it's very me, my desire, what I want to do. And now it's like, oh, what about the other person? And this man she was going on a trip with, um, what's his name again? Let me look. I keep forgetting. Duncan Wedder. He goes to gamble because he was very upset that she's not with him and playing with him, and he makes all this money and he passes out in their hotel room. And she comes in, she takes all the money and she goes and gives the guards on the boat and told them to take it down to those people and make sure that they get the money. And we're watching it and we know, because we are in tune with reality, we are not as naive as Bella is, we're not as optimistic as Bella is. We know that those two guards are going to take the money and keep it for themselves. And we see it all the time, right? People write all these donations, all this money, they give charities, they give organizations, they give NGOs, and they are thinking it's going to go and help those starving poor kids in some country, those sick people, and the money never gets there. And that's what happened, the money never did. And the people on the ship kicked them out because they're like, you don't have money to settle, you know, us anymore, so yeah, you can't be here anymore. And that's how they became, you know, stranded. And apparently it seems they were in a pickle for like 3 months, and it was at that point that Bella goes into this establishment, and this lady tells her that if she charges the man 30 and gives her 10, you know, she can keep the 20. And she didn't even know at this time that what she was doing was prostitution. You know, she didn't know it was X work. It just made sense in her brain, from, again, you know, instinctual perspective. Like, I'm hungry, I get food. You know, I want to fast jump, I fast jump. I am broke and I don't have money, and this lady tells me that, oh, if someone fast jumps me, they can give me 20 and I can use the money and buy food. It wasn't a question of morality. It wasn't a question of morality, bad, good. It was survival. Like, I need money, I do this, I get money. Period. So she does it. She comes to meet him. She tells him, "Look, Duncan, I got money for us. I bought this food you can eat." And he's like, "How did you get the money?" And she told him, "Oh, yeah, I met this lady. She was very nice. She told me that if I let someone fun jump me, she would give me, I can charge 30." And I was even surprised that people can charge 30 and the person wasn't even as good as you. Like, it was very matter of fact. It wasn't emotional. It was like, yeah, and he lost his mind. He lost his mind. He doesn't own her body. It's not her body for him to do anything with, but he's losing his mind. Like, how could you? And you would see it's not from a place of concern, like, oh, aren't you worried about diseases? Did you protect yourself? What if he harmed you? It's none of that. You see, it's very ego driven. Like, you are supposed to be my property that I get to use. You don't get to use yourself or decide to use yourself with other people. And yeah, I saw that and I was like, yeah, this was the point where they parted ways. And this is where Duncan really reveals how disgusting he is as a human being, because Bella, and he's like, "How could you do that?" And Bella's like, "Well, I watched you for 3 months. I believed you would find a way, and you didn't do anything. We were still homeless. We were still starving, and I felt I had to find a way and do something, and I did." And he's cussing at her. He is ridiculing her in the middle of the street. And so Bella says, "You know what? I'm done. I don't want to travel with you anymore. Here's some money for you to take and like go back or whatever." So she gives him the money that her, Godwin gave her, to stash. And he's so angry. He's like, "You had all this money all along and you did not," and he takes the whole thing from her. Again, this is how you see that level of like cruelty in him. He didn't think like, "Oh, if I take everything, how is she going to survive? How is she going to cope?" It goes to show you that, again, his anger is not coming from a place of concern for her. It's not coming from a place of safety, of like, "Oh, are people taking advantage of you? Is this woman that did this for you a good woman? Is she," He takes it and he leaves her. And now Bella is out in the world, out in the cold on her own, and she has to figure things out herself. And Bella doesn't speak French, but eventually, with the time she spends in France, she does learn to speak French, and she speaks it really well. So while Bella is in this establishment doing this thing, Bella, in her optimism, Bella has like this desire for change in her personality. Like, she sees things and she always thinks about how things can be improved, how things can be better. And she realizes that in the exchange, the man picks the woman. The woman doesn't get to decide if she wants to go with the man. And she tells the lady, the madame that runs this place, that, "Don't you think it would be better if the women also got to pick, and it's not like she was forced to lay with a revolting man she doesn't want to lay with? Don't you think the experience would be better for both of them if they did it that way?" And we see another, there are like different ways that this movie shows us aspects of reality. This woman tells her, "Look at my grandchild. I have to provide for this child." And it's kind of manipulative. And again, we notice as well that Bella develops this awareness for manipulation as well. Again, life is teaching her, experiences are teaching her, and she's starting to see things that she originally would not have been able to see. Again, it mirrors life. A lot of people, when they come in contact with the first, horrible relationship, be it a man or woman, you're so naive, you're so optimistic. You don't know what bad looks like until you've had bad. You kind of have to experience it to know it. And so that when you see it next time, you're like, this is not good. This is manipulation. This is lying. This is insincere. This is disingenuous. And so she actually calls out this madame at times and tells her, you're being manipulative, you're just telling me this so I can keep doing this. I've heard you tell the other girls, it's not just me. And I'm like, okay, look at you, Bella. Look at you. Aren't you, growing? Aren't you evolving? Aren't you look at Bella of yesterday? And so the woman tells her that I have to provide for this child, and this child needs to survive, and I'm sure you don't want this child to die. Again, she is appealing to, Bella has this sense of protecting the poor, protecting the weak, protecting the marginalized, and like this baby is like a victim in this scenario. Of course Bella doesn't want this baby to die or something, so Bella's like, no, I don't want this baby to die. And the woman tells her, the men like it this way. They like to know, like, it's not just about them getting the exchange. And I thought that was interesting. It's not just about paying for the service, it's not just about meeting a need, the need being, I want to meet this desire and like scratch this itch and have it over with. There's also an aspect of control that is there in knowing that I picked this person and I get to pay to lay with them even though they don't want to lay with me. And they are willing to pay for that. And all that money is what keeps the roof over her head. And I thought, wow, yeah, that's deep. Because it's not just about, actual desire is just like hunger, and like people that are not fortunate enough to have partners have to pay for this service and get it done. There is also this power in it, in knowing that this woman finds me revolting, but I'm going to pay and she doesn't have a choice, and I find that also satisfying as well. And when Bella comes to the reality of the situation that, okay, I can't do anything about this at this level. Madame is not going to match me with people that I want to be matched with because it's not good for business. And in the end, the corporation is always going to do what works for its bottom line. What can I control? That lesson is very big because for a lot of us, we find ourselves in situations where it feels like this is beyond me and like there is nothing I can't do. But at what level? Maybe not at this level, but maybe at this level, there's something you can control. There's something you can do. What can you do at that level? What small change can you make at that level? And I think it's a lesson we can take away from Bella. So at that level, Bella thinks, what can I do at this level? And what does Bella start doing? Bella starts having conversations with the men. And I think these are the ways she continues to perfect her French. She starts having conversations with them. She tells them, tell me a story and I'll tell you a joke. Or, she finds ways so that it's not like you're doing this thing with this stranger, with this person that you find gross and there's nothing. So that is something she can control. She can control that. When they go into that room, she can control the pacing. She can decide we talk first before we do, or after we do, we talk, or, things like that. And she participates. I think there was a customer that came in to show his sons that looked like teenagers how to perform X, and he's talking, walking them through the process as he's doing it. And sometimes, she chips in as well so that she doesn't just feel like she's this object that is acted upon. She somehow takes control of that moment of experience. And I think that was empowering. The fact that, okay, I'm here, this is how it's going to be. I don't get to choose who I go to do this with, but I can control how it happens so that it's not a horrible experience for me, too. Um, so I thought that was huge. So by the time Bella is there, Bella continues to read, this becomes like what she's doing to like make money, and she doesn't look down upon it. She just feels like people pay me for this, and I it's like honorable work. Like, I'm not robbing anyone, I'm not, doing anything to anyone. And we see that all kinds of people come there, disabled people, all kinds of people. Um, and she doesn't make anybody feel less than. She doesn't make anybody feel less important. There's like this egalitarian, equal approach she has to how she relates with all these different kinds of men, the attractive ones, the not unattractive ones, the ones that look like they haven't showered for like 10 days. I caught that. I really did. And I think that's why she probably also finds honor in the work she's doing, because it's like, this is honorable work. I'm providing a service too, just like you. Um, so yeah, Bella's still reading. Bella speaks very good French now. Bella has read all kinds of books. Bella writes now, and every time she was on this journey and doing all of these things as she traveled across the different countries, she always wrote letters back to Godwin, and each time you would see that the sentence structure of the letters were getting better. So Bella's what's her name? Bella's brain was becoming more developed. Her brain, her thinking, her everything was becoming more developed. But by the time Bella comes back, because she receives word that Godwin was not well, she's like a new person. She has like reached like this level of arc development that you're just like, wow, okay, okay. And another thing is, all of these experiences allowed Bella to experience all kinds of forms of life, right? All kinds of life. So in the story, she starts off pretty privileged. She has money, she's going on these trips, and then when they lost that money and she became destitute, and she discovered this prostitution work and how it feels to be poor, how it feels to struggle, it really, again, it's not just, oh, I want to see the world, and like often when people make those words and statements like, I want to see the world, I want to explore, it's like this very rainbows and roses and type of situation, sunshine and rainbows, like happiness, bliss. And a lot of life is not happiness and bliss. A lot of life is an experience that really does challenge you and make you grow, is ugly, is storms, it's hurricanes, it's tornadoes, it's, gray skies. Those are the kind of things that kind of like push you to evolve to your like next level of evolution. And that was actually a statement she made when they were tossed off the boat, and she told him, oh, well, we are not like those poor people. I guess we're going to figure out how we are going to survive now. And she was like optimistic. She was excited to like, okay, are people really not going to help us? Are people really, are human beings really going to be cruel? Are they really going to watch us and see us like starve on the corner and not help? Are people really going to be as malicious as some of the books say, some of the cynics say, you know? And so, honestly, by the time Bella comes back home, Bella has learned a lot about life. Bella has known pain. And now Bella is going to know loss, because this man is going to, die because he has cancer. And Bella has seen so much that she's so brave, and I'm gonna speak on that level of bravery and how I saw it depicted. But I don't know, Bella was that girl. Like, I was like, wow, damn. And so, anyway, she comes back home. While she is in France, I think one of the ladies that do this ex work with her in the same building sees the mark on her stomach and asks her if she, the C-section scar, if she's had a baby, and she's like, no, she hasn't had a baby. And so she has these questions, and she comes home and she asks Godwin, and Godwin tells her the truth about everything. And she's very furious. Like, why would you keep this away from me? Why wouldn't you tell me? She confronts the assistant that Godwin has, that was betrothed to her to marry, and she asks him, did you know too? You knew as well. Why didn't you tell me? She's also furious because she sees another girl that they have reanimated. I don't know how she was reanimated, if they put the baby's brain in her head or something. I don't know. We just see that she's been reanimated and they're training her the way they trained Bella as well. And this one's progress is quite slow. I don't think there would ever be another Bella. Um, and it's probably also Bear's spirit, this zeal to want to evolve, want to go to the next stage, wanting to become better, that also contributed to who she became. And I think it's important to note, because Godwin makes that point. Godwin says, yes, I reanimated you, I saved your life, I brought you here, but everything else is you, you know? And I thought, yes, that's kind of like a huge part of the story, that we are choosing in a way who we're, like, it gave her some, it acknowledged her agency. Like, all of these things were not just happening to her, she had a part and parcel to play in this as well. And the kind of Bella she evolved into, the kind of Bella she became, is a factor of who she is and who she chose to become. And I thought, wow, I am glad that he acknowledged that. Yes, I brought you back to life, I animated you, I, you know, took care of you, but everything else is you. You own this. This ideology you have, this optimism, your expression, your zeal, your philosophy, it's you. You did that. You gave that to yourself. And I like that he didn't take ownership of that. He didn't act like, oh, I made you, I own you. Godwin also had his own level of character development. And I want to mention that because in Godwin's character, we see, how emotional vulnerability is not encouraged in men. In society, we have that, it's a thing. But we also see that depicted in this story. And I don't know if it's a function of the setting. Like, again, I don't know the time period this is supposed to reflect. It somehow gives me a dated vibe, but it also feels timeless in a way. And I think it's because a lot of the things are relatable to our current times in the 2024. And so it's like he talks about how his dad experimented on him, and you're hearing some of the things his dad did to him, and you're like, oh my gosh, Godwin, that's horrible. How aren't you in therapy for this? I'm so sorry your dad did this. And he just brushes it off like it's nothing, you know. And all the time period that Bella is on her journey traveling, we see how he is suffering deeply. He misses her. He never writes back. He never writes back. He never writes back, In fact, at a point, he says, oh, that, because in these conversations he has them with that his assistant apprentice person, and he's like, I think all of this is because, I formed attachments to her. These are just experiments, for the science. I shouldn't have like formed attachments to her. Because he wants to be in denial of the fact that he misses her. And that feeling hurts. And instead, he intellectualizes the emotion. He is like, we'll just go and make another one, and this time we're not gonna attach anything to it. We're not gonna form any bond with it because we have to further the science. Science is the most important thing. After all, that's what my dad did when he like cut me and butchered me and all the things his dad did to him. It was for the science. Can you imagine that? The things his dad did to him were horrible. But he can't say the things my dad did to me were horrible and it hurt me. So he says he did it for science, to advance the science. And that's a noble reason and that's a noble cause. And it's just quite sad. But again, as Godwin's character evolves, he never writes back. And I don't know if it's because he didn't want to be vulnerable or he didn't want to give her the idea that I want you to come back. Like he wants her to do what she needs to do, see the world, see the life, get it out of her system without any pressure of you need to come back, you need to come back and be with me. I don't know if perhaps he felt if he said I missed you, she would think, oh, he misses me, run back. But or maybe he also, but I think it's more so that he just didn't feel like it was okay to even share. Because you can't tell someone I miss you and it's not necessarily manipulation. You're not telling them to leave and come and be with you. So both of those things can exist, but he couldn't even say that I miss you. He couldn't say that. And so by the time they come back, she comes back and they have this vulnerable conversation. She forgives him, eventually. And, he acknowledges that Bella's her own person and it's wonderful. Bella has a conversation with the guy she was betrothed to and, you know, they have this authentic conversation. She's developed, her sentences are developed, she's asking him, I have been with many men, does that concern you? Does that, because she's not coming back and thinking, oh yes, we're engaged and you're mine, I can come back and just snatch. She still sees him as a person, she sees him as an equal. She invites him into this conversation like, is this still something you want to do? This is me, this is what I have done, this is where I have been. Some people have had issues with it. The people she's referring to, Duncan, controlling and stuff. She didn't tell him he was controlling, and he was just very accepting. He was like, yeah, and they have like this very honest, vulnerable, heart to heart talk, and they decide that they're going to get married. And at their wedding, the man that was the man that the person she was, when she jumped off into the ocean and died, her husband comes with Duncan to stop the wedding and take her home. So up until this point, we've seen two levels of control. We've seen control from Godwin as her father, which was protective. We've seen control from Duncan, who was her possessor, who tried to acquire her the way he acquires other women, as artifacts, as possessions to entertain, use for a time, toss out. And at this level, we see the sinister level of control. This is the worst of all. This man that Bella used to be married to was horrible. He was so horrible that he had a gun and he would hold it around and use it to threaten all his servants at his home. And he did the same thing to Bella. When Bella arrived, he has the gun and he's trying to like dictate things. And this is the level of bravery I was referring to. Like, Bella was that chick. Like, she was so badass because at a point he pulls it in front of her and he is like threatening her, and she walks in front of him and she tells him, look, either you do it or you don't. Like, because here is a woman that has seen everything. She has died and been brought back to life. You know, she has seen money, she has seen suffering, she's had to sell her body, she has survived starvation in the streets, being homeless for 3 months. Like, she has gone through a lot of things and she has read a lot of things. So at this point, nothing is scary to her. Nothing is anything. And she has had to wrestle with her her existence, that she was someone that died and was brought back to life, and like she's still processing that, and this man is pulling this act in front of her, and she's just unfazed. I was just like, wow, she is that girl, you know. And he also tries to like plan with like a doctor in secret to um euthanize her, and she was already planning to leave, but when she overheard that conversation, yeah, that was a point where she really was like, I'm gonna leave this place and get out of here. What I found interesting was how when he came to stop the wedding, and Godwin and her groom were there, you know, they didn't like jump in and they were like, oh, we are the men and I'm going to outman you and like go get into a fist fight or fist match. They just looked at her and let her decide. Here is Godwin, who is basically her father figure, that had to take all this level of opioids to be able to stand and be present for the wedding. He is dying, literally, and she's not going to be there. He is not. He is not like forcing her to stay. And here's the man that she's about to leave for the second time, and he's not forcing her to stay. Like, it you know, like they have come to understand she's her own person and she gets to decide. I thought that scene was very powerful. And she looks back at him. He's not forcing her to stay. Neither of them are. Nobody's claiming ownership. She's my wife I'm about to marry and she must stay here. You know, they say how they feel, but they're not going to fist bumps and asserting themselves in that way, because Bella is her own person and she gets to decide. And I thought that was interesting. But yeah, she deals with the situation. You know, I think she shoots him and they wrestle for the gun. He gets shot in the foot or something. I can't remember what happened, but she handled him in the end, and I think she brought him back home to the lab and they put the brain of a goat in his body, and that was how they titled his whole situation. But that level of control was the most sinister, because even though Duncan was disgusting and horrible, you know, he had covert ways of control. You know, he had covert ways of telling her how to speak, what to do, all these kind of things. He did not carry a weapon. You know, he was also manipulative. He was the one that went and told that guy that, hey, your wife, she's actually here with this man in his, you know, creepy lab, and she is horrible and she's done all horrible things and all of these kind of things, and yeah, go and get her. And it was manipulation and also his own form of like vengeance. And I thought it was interesting that this man had no issues with the fact that this other man has also been in your wife and been playing around her, but you guys are going to align forces together. Oh, I find it interesting. That whole thing was just interesting. Yeah, like Duncan is going to line up with this guy because he doesn't want to see a world where this woman is happy. He doesn't want to see a world where she gets to do things on her own terms. You know, he'd rather another man have her, even if that man is not him, as long as she doesn't get to be happy. Interesting. There was a scene where Duncan is actually in a psych ward because the whole thing and the whole situation with Bella makes him snap. This whole control situation makes him snap to the point that he is locked up and he loses his mind. I just thought, wow, this is interesting. You know, there are fragments of feminism where they argue that the reason why oppressive men control women so much is because they fear that they cannot control themselves. The key word here is oppressive men. Not all men, not every man, but those oppressive men like Duncan, they can't control themselves. He can't control himself. He can't control his appetite. He can't control his desires. He can't control, So it's like, instead of figuring out myself, figuring out my attachment issues, figuring out my avoidant issues, I'm going to control every other thing around me. And it will drive you mad. It will. Because once in a while, you're going to come across someone like Bella who cannot be controlled. And then what are you going to do then? And so that's really it. The main focus of this story was, I would say, about Bella's individuation, her evolution, her coming into her becoming, that, and then the aspects of control in society, especially control from men. And you can see the different layers of dimensions that this kind of control can exist. It could either be protective, like, oh, I'm trying to protect you, that's why I'm controlling you, but it's still control. It can also be manipulative in the case of Duncan, and at its extreme, it can be diabolical. Diabolical, that's the word. It can be diabolical. It can be sinister, as this was the case with, her late husband. And I just thought it was a bit disgusting how even after, like, something they didn't really talk about was how, I don't know. Anyway, diabolical levels of control. So, yeah. So, taking it back to how I started, when I compared this with Barbie, the Barbie movie is like feminism, introduction to feminism 101. That was how I felt when I saw the movie. And it's not a bad film, It's not a bad movie. It's not a bad movie. I saw it, and but the way people talked about Barbie, like, it's like this woman, the woman theme is very surface level. Nobody that really studies the genre will tell you that, oh yeah, this is some like deep stuff here. It's very obvious. Another thing about the Barbie movie is that the Barbie movie was a reflection about our reality as it is. The only thing they did was they flipped it. So for the certain men that saw the movie and felt like, oh, this movie is so woke, and like, why is it that the Kens don't have anything, or they couldn't go and live in Barbie's house, or why is it that they only gave them one seat in the Supreme Court? It's because that's how the world is. Women are like accessories in the lives of men. You move into his house, his things, and then you are attached to that. You set aside your own goals and plans, and you align with his own vision. This is how you are supposed to play your role. And when we get seats and stuff, we're still having the first black woman have a president. Like, how many seats do women have on boards and things like that? And that's why they gave him just one seat, and they said one step at a time, because it's not a utopia. It's not a utopia where what we want via like idealism is that it's equal representation. But that's not how our reality in the real world is. And because Barbie is a flip on our reality, we are also going to give him just one seat and tell him one step at a time, because that's how it is in the real world. So it's like very surface level stuff. It's not like, they're talking about, oh, a woman has to be beautiful and still be this and still be smart and like still be, that whole statement America Ferrara said, and yes, it was true, it was relatable, but again, it's still very surface level stuff. You know, it surprises me that so many men had issues with the commentary and, you know, the kind of angle that the kind of, you know, the way the storytelling was written and what they're trying to showcase, because they are showcasing reality. So if you don't like it, do something to change the current reality. Um, but in my opinion, Poor Things did for women what Barbie wanted to do. So for me, if I had to compare the two, uh, I would give it to Poor Things because it's a deeper level of understanding. You know, we're talking about we're confronting ugly things like X work and like body autonomy and body ownership and like control and coercive control and like all of these other ways, all these other darker themes that are not often explored in conversation. It brings it to light, and that's why to me I think, yeah, this is it, you know. And like I compared the characters earlier, both of them were going through archetype evolutions. Barbie, as she comes out from Barbie world with this wide-eyed look of naivety and like, oh wow, the real world, oh possibility, but then you realize that, oh, you know, this is how women in the world are. This is how women in the world struggle. Like in the real world, it's not what it is in Barbie land. Women are not on the seats, you know, and you are not this like role model because you're like a standard most women feel like they would need. So it's a kind of awakening, right? So Barbie is also going through this awakening journey, you know, and like, oh, do I want to be in this perfect world and never experience pain and like, you know, always have to be perfect and all of these things in this society, in this Barbie world society. Um, and Bella Baxter and Poor Things, like I said throughout this analysis, is going through her own journey of awakening, and we see all the steps, you know, the word formation, sentence formation, her brain development, you know, her sexual awakening, her intellectual awakening, her personality, you know, development, how her ideologies are formed. And for me it's just a deeper aspect to me. And then again, Barbie is family friendly, it's for everybody, children can see Barbie. But Poor Things is R rated, and so I guess it helps um, that because of, you know, the audience, they're able to tackle things in a certain way. And so I love this movie. I'm glad that this person that played the character, Emma Stone, you know, I think her rendition was just spot on. And I'm not someone that really notices like the best acting, and that's why I don't comment on it, but she really did well, and I would like to see more movies and stories like this in the month of March. So my next analysis is going to be a live video, and I also hope to get some suggestions on other movies that are on this like level of depth that we can share and discuss. We still have some days left in the month of March. I think we're midway right now. Today's the 15th as I'm recording this, or should I say as this is happening live. And so if I can get at least 2 more movies that really explore female experiences, female experiences in the world in this month of March, I would be very happy to do that. So definitely leave your suggestions in the comment section of this video. And with that, we come to the end. I am starving. I am hungry. I can't believe I've been talking this long. to a camera with no one and just myself. And I guess I will see you in the next one. And thank you for your time. And I would suggest do something while you watch this video. You know, listen to it while you carpool, or while you get your cleaning done on Saturday, or I don't know, while you do your workouts, because that's what I do. You definitely don't have to just be tied to your screen and watching this. This whole setup is not that interesting, so I guess I'll see you in the next one. I love you. Love yourselves too. Bye.